Initially, again, the problem was that the credit display and the hundreds column display on the points wouldn't light at all, and that the machine would keep giving away free plays forever and ever. Problems were traced to burned out driver segment 7-segment driver chips for this guy and this guy were gone, and the actual BCD counter for the credits was blown. I found a couple of bad solder joints. One was on the one shot, which basically gives the clock pulses for the payouts, and there were some other issues. There were some bad wires. There was a solder blob between two pins which was removed. There was another one which was removed and actually I think was intentional, so I put it back with a jumper wire. That's actually right here. This is a NAND gate, and there are a couple inputs that were floating, and that's because at some point someone cut off a resistor network on this board, which basically would have the counters clear out after every time you achieved a free play, which is 100 points, which is kind of silly, and that's probably why they cut it out. But they either left the inputs to this NAND gate floating, which generally would be okay because they sort of floated low, and I think at some point somebody slapped a solder blob between the two pins to make it work. I thought that was bad when I first looked at it, and then I realized that those were actually pins that were floating, so I put the, instead of putting a blob back, I put a jumper wire between them. So that is now working. The only other changes on the board that I put on, well, there's a bunch of wires here which I'll be taking off. I basically separated the 5 volts and ground on the board from the power supply that's on here. I didn't want to hook up AC to this thing while it's sitting, raw on the desktop. And I hooked up a 5 volt DC supply, and I had to cut some traces to isolate the digital circuit from the analog side. So to take a look at this in operation now, I'll turn on the supply. And you see all the displays work now. So basically the way this would work is the player would come along and insert a coin. So I don't have a coin mechanism attached, so I have to simulate it by pulsing certain signals that would actually come in from this connector here. So the coin in signal, if I just round that guy, let me make sure I get the right one. It's this guy right here. So if I just round that pin right there, that simulated a coin going in. And so what would happen if this was connected to the machine would be you'd get a payout, 3 payouts of, I don't know how many, but I think Eddie said 6 balls each. So the circuit actually has verifies that the payout was made, and it won't do anything until it receives 3 pulses, meaning that the 3 groups of balls were dispensed. So I can simulate that signal here. So I toggle that signal 1, 2, 3 times, and now the machine will work. And basically after that happens, a solenoid will have unlocked the shooting mechanism, and you can begin play. So every time you get a ball in the payoff pocket, you get 10 points, and you'll see that this counter will count up by tens, and I can simulate that by toggling this signal that would be the payout pocket. So if I just, there's 10 points, that's 1, 2. So what happens is every 100 points you get a replay, and you'll see as this hits 100, the lower counter will increase by 1. So at 100 points you get a free play. And you can actually, you just keep playing and getting 10 points each time. You can get, depending on how good you are, you can get a couple credits. Okay, so there's 2 credits and 200 points. Now, say you ran out of balls, and what you'd want to do then is you have 2 credits here. You would push the replay button. So the replay button actually works now. So what I can do is simulate the replay button being pressed, and what will happen is the counter, the credit counter will subtract by 1, and the points will zero out. Let me see, it did that, and the board will actually lock out the system at this point until it can verify again that it got that the user got the payout of balls. So I again have to toggle that one signal 3 times before anything will work. Okay, that was done. And now if the person starts shooting balls again and getting them in the payout pockets, they'll get points again. That's 10. So they could keep playing and possibly get another credit. And so, say at this point the game was over, they could again push the replay and subtract 1 from the credits and clear out the score. And again, I have to simulate the payout, and then they can start counting up again. So again, you get 10 points every time you get a ball in the payout pocket, and you get a credit at every 100. Now, what will happen is the maximum number of points the machine can register is 990, and 9 credits is the most you can get. If the credits go over 9, it basically wraps around to 0 and you lose them all. I actually don't know if that's actually possible, but I don't think it's possible for you to get 990 points because you don't get that many balls to play to begin with. But we can just take a look at what happens. I'll just pause it and crank it up to a higher point value. Okay, so here I am at 930 points with 9 credits. And just to show that you actually do have 9 credits, we'll hit the replay again. Should go down to 8 credits and zero it out. I get my ball payout, and I can start playing again. And so, say you have 8 credits, and you can see what happens when it turns over on credits. So here we are at 200, and you see the credits went over to 0. So basically the guy just lost all his credits. Okay, I cranked it back up to in the 900s, and you can see what happens when it flips over from 990 points. And you'll also see that since I have 8 credits, I'll actually receive the credit and get up to 9, but the points will register as 0. There you go.